Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. I think I've lost weight and years off of my life. I don't drink much, but I should drink more when the Capitals are playing Game 6 in April. Ed Frankovic joins us here to talk about a momentous evening, right, on Sunday night, an incredible 2 weeks of hockey, far more difficult than probably we made it out to be when I wished for a Toronto first-round matchup with young talent that was very feisty, very eager, and a very willing culprit for Game 1, Game 2. They hung in, and they turned this thing into an overtime Game 6. 5 out of the 6 games going overtime. Ed, we're going to need all the time necessary, even that extra half an hour on Thursday night, on draft night, to get ready for Game 1 of this slobber knocker between the Penguins and the Capitals, which should be every bit as ugly and promising as we want it to be. But I guess before we talk about Pittsburgh, we must shake hands with Toronto, correct?
Yeah, what a series. I mean, you got to tip your hat to the Leafs for everything they did. And there was, to take 5 of those 6 games to overtime, and they managed to steal 2 of them in overtime. And they played extremely well. And I really thought the Capitals would win this series quicker. I think we both did. But I think in the end, the Capitals are going to be better off having played Toronto versus, say, they got a Boston in the first round, because I think they're going to play faster. I think they learned some lessons about themselves, because when they face Pittsburgh, and you and I will have plenty of time to talk about Caps Pittsburgh as we get closer to Thursday night, but it's going to be a fast-paced series, and the Penguins certainly play fast. And I thought the Leafs really brought their speed this series, and they just really gave the Capitals some fits, and it took some coaching adjustments by Coach Trotz. The biggest one was bumping Wilson up to the third line, and then defensively, the Capitals found their game. The last 2 games gave up 1 goal each game, and won 2 overtime affairs 2-1. And I think their superior depth took over. And certainly, the Game 1 GOAT, Martin Marincin, I'm finally saying his name right because I got to watch him all series. He was a big factor on the game-winning goal. As Marcus Johansson in front, just beats him to the paint, gets position, and puts it in. And really proud of the way the Capitals didn't fall apart after that kind of a fluky bounce when Matthews tied the game, and I thought they started playing the way they needed to play. They started pressing the play, and I wish they'd have done more of that this series, and I think they'll learn a lesson from it, and hopefully do that as we get to round 2. But boy, what a series! The Coach Trotz going up against the highest paid coach in the league, and Mike Babcock, and he prevailed. I thought the moves he made paid off.
I guess we could go one by one through all of these guys. Let's start with Johansson and Kuznetsov in Game 6. I mean, there have been a lot of stories here. I mean, Justin Williams is a story. Holtby is his own story. The Ovechkin line at various points, and TJ Oshie, and, he had some pain in the game. Wilson had some pain in the game. We've seen guys, sort of, as Trotz would say, and here's the reaction I'm looking for, it takes a little piece of you, right? I mean, every series takes a piece. We talked about where they were with the Flyers after Game 6 and winning in that afternoon there a year ago this weekend, and now we talk about winning a Game 6 as they did this time on the road in Toronto to avoid a Game 7, but this has taken a little piece out of them.
Certainly. I mean, Carl Alsner, I think he's been fighting something all season, and he was the first piece to kind of go down after Game 2, and he was out of the lineup, and Nate Schmidt comes in. I like to call him the 88 car because he just reminds me of a race car, the way he gets out there on the ice and brings energy. And he was definitely a very positive factor in the series. And he took a kind of a cheap shot from Leo Komarov after it was 1-0. And fortunately, he came back and played several shifts. But he's going to be sore before this Penguins series. And the big piece that really looked like season ending on Friday night, the really low and dirty hit from Nazem Kadri on Alex Ovechkin, and the whole Verizon Center goes eerily silent on Friday night, and Ovi's carried off to the locker room, but the Russian machine never breaks, and he comes back and plays a strong game, and I really thought that top line was great this series, but then Oshie takes a shot right before the Johansson goal, blocking a shot. And but as I was watching the telecast, as he got on the bench, I could see Smitty, the Caps trainer, come over to him, and I could read Oshie's lips, and he said, "I'm all right." So I think he's okay. I think, he may have a little bruise from taking that shot, but you got Oshie nicked up, you got Schmidt nicked up, you got the Russian machine nicked up a bit, and you lost Alsner in the series, and thank God that's where that Shattenkirk deal came in, because you had some depth there on the back end, and had it gone 7, you might. I was worried you might see Taylor Chorney.
Well, they did themselves
a
huge favor. They did all of us a favor that we're going to be sitting around here, having a beverage and watching the Orioles and, worrying about draft rumors on Tuesday night instead of sweating out a potential knockout game. And, at 2-1, the wrong way in this series, Game 4 was, there was some real concern and some real mojo, blue and white mojo going on into all of these overtime periods. I mean, the Capitals have really walked the razor's edge here as far as they needed to this week, and this little piece of downtime and this little bit of rest that they're going to get going into Thursday night and knowing that they're coming home and the Penguins are going to have to sleep in strange beds for the first couple of nights of this thing. I don't know how it gets out of D.C. over the weekend. I don't know, how they're going to go to Pittsburgh on Sunday. I'll be broadcasting from Pittsburgh next Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I will be up at the console for games 3 and 4. I know what this series represents. I know not to make plans for Game 7, right? I mean, that's probably where this thing's going, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a heck of a series, and the Capitals have waited a whole year. I mean, I tweeted this out right after the game on Sunday night. The Cavs have waited a whole freaking year for this rematch. And let's talk about why I think this series went so long, the first series. There was a ton of pressure on the Capitals. I mean, there was a massive amount of pressure. And you talk about the Game 4, they're going into that game down 2-1. The Leafs had certainly shown that they could take it to the Capitals. They had won a couple overtime games. They're on their home ice. If they win that game, it's 3-1. If they win that one, the series is 3-1. So there was a ton of pressure, just a ton of pressure on the Capitals, and it's hard to play when you have all this pressure on you. And I really felt like it was almost like the fluky bounce that Matthews got. And to be honest with you, that was a fluky bounce. But if you watch the replay on that goal, Kuznetsov slows down and glides for about a stride or two, and Matthews kept going. And it's a good lesson, as I blogged out at WNST.net, it's a good lesson for Kuznetsov and everybody else in the Caps. If you even take a single stride off in the playoffs, it can burn you, because Kuznetsov there should have had positions on Matthews, so that bad bounce comes to him instead of Matthews, but he let up a bit. You cannot let up in the playoffs because anything can happen. That's where a Jacoby Jones over the defense wins you a game and you go on to win a Super Bowl. You just can't.
Nothing that crazy is ever going to happen again. I mean, there's crazy and then there's that, right? How about crazy and the Austin Matthews bounce? What say you about? I mean, at that moment, I'm like, there are ghosts somewhere in Canada, somewhere at the Hall of Fame that I visited that's, 4 blocks away from center ice there. It felt like there was a sixth man on the ice. It felt like a ghost, right?
It was horrifying, and I'm watching the game with my wife, and I'm like, okay,
I can't believe they survived.
I'm going to go down and start my workout, because it's just, the stress level goes through the roof. So I go down, I start working out, and I'm like, just to try and get through this. And sure enough, Johansson gets the big goal to tie it. And
that's how you get through it. Maybe I should try some power yoga in overtime.
I don't know, Ness. It's so hard. These games are so excruciating.
Dude, I sat on the roof in Toronto last week. It's insane. It is the most exciting thing you can imagine in sports. I mean, this has been a chow-off week, and I know it hasn't been easy, and I know it's an 8 versus a 1, and they're the Capitals, and they always lose, except when they don't, and this has got to be their year, but it might not be, and I can't fathom anything more exciting than what we've witnessed as Capitals fans this week. And I can't imagine that this series is going to be anything different than 1-goal games and tie games with 8 minutes left to go in the third period every night.
It's going to be agonizing again, and let's get back to that Matthews bounce. I mean, like you said, the ghosts. I mean, the whole history of the franchise. You think's got to be waiting on these guys. And I just love the way they responded. They didn't. Nobody slumped on the bench. It was like, all right, we're going to go get this. And, you know, it was almost at that moment when they started doing it, they took the game over. I mean, I can't think of many Leafs chances after that. Maybe the Komarov breakaway after he cheap shot Schmidt, but I don't think the Leafs had many chances after that. I know that Alan May said he had the scoring chances 7-1 in the overtime, and boy, that was just a complete reversal. You remember the overtime in Game 6 against the Penguins last spring? It was all Penguins, and you're just like, hanging on. When's the goal going to come? When's the goal going to come? And, you know, the Capitals just never let up on the Leafs. They didn't give them any chance there in overtime to win that game, to steal a bounce and take it back to a Game 7. And God, I wouldn't even want to read the papers on Monday and Tuesday heading into that one. They exercised a lot of demons by just burying them in that overtime. I love the way they played. They were aggressive. The Leafs couldn't get the puck out. The puck would come out, and the defenseman would get it right back in. And sure enough, it was an icing that wore the Leafs out. And Coach Trotz, if you notice, he makes a line switch there. The Leafs are stuck with their fourth line out there, and Martin Marincin and Nikita Zaitsev on defense. And Trotz had just had his third line out there, and he comes right back with the Kuznetsov line. And Kuznetsov, who I gave him, as I said, I didn't like the way he played the Matthews goal. You know, he wins a big draw on Brian Boyle, who's been it was a thorn in the Capitals side. He's always a thorn in the Capitals side, that guy, when he was at the Rangers or Tampa. Big win, and it gets back to Carlson, and he gives it to Mr. Clutch, who wins Game 5 with the goal. And that Kuznetsov again with the pass and on that goal, and then Williams just throws it on net, and there's Johansson. And boy, I was on the elliptical with about 5 minutes to go on a 30-minute workout. And
you already sweating? I didn't have to move, and I was sweating. Palms of my hands, Ed. You know, when in overtime, like I felt sort of moisture as I was tweeting, and I didn't even feel that in Toronto last week. But I never felt like it was sort of in the balance. But once they got the phantom goal, the ghost goal, and then the evener happened, I thought, all right, how is this good? But they were the team with the pressure, and I think even starting in OT 4-on-4, I think the Capitals are the best team on earth 4-on-4. I like them to score versus not score 4-on-4 all day long. That's how I feel about them.
I agree with you, Ness. In this series, 4-on-4 was a great matchup for the Capitals, and you remember Schmidt set up Backstrom in Game 3. They ultimately lost that game, but Schmidt set that up on a 4-on-4. The Capitals really they struggled with 4-on-4 all season. They just didn't play well, and as Coach Trotz told us, they just weren't practicing it. Well, they practiced it before the playoffs, and they were very good in that 4-on-4, and I really like when Schmidt's out there because Schmidt and Orlov are two guys that can really carry the puck and press the play in that 4-on-4. And coming into the playoffs, there was someone who thought, well, teams are going to try and take a guy off and make the Caps go 4-on-4. Because you remember that game in Pittsburgh earlier in the year, that 8-7 Wild one, the Capitals gave up 2 goals in 4-on-4 after having a 3-0 lead. Well, they've completely gotten better at the 4-on-4 since then, and I don't think that's a tactic Pittsburgh's going to want to try, the way the Capitals are playing 4-on-4 right now, especially the way Johansson and Kuznetsov are going. And Ovechkin's look like a different player, even though he did get his knee taken out there on Friday night. But he came back, and he's certainly playing well. The top 2 lines are really going, and the top 2 deep pair, I'd like to see Shattenkirk and Orpik play better, but I thought once it was 1-0, I thought those 2 guys, I thought Shattenkirk probably played his best hockey of the series the last 27 minutes of that game. He just finally looked like the guy they really needed, and he's going to be huge. He's going to have to be a difference maker against the Penguins.
Well, and let's talk about Holtby a little bit and give him some love, because without him, they are not here. There were points in the game, in every game, quite frankly, where saves he made, as I've said, they've kind of left him alone at various points. They've made it harder on him than it was during the regular season, by and large.
Yeah, they were absolutely atrocious defensively for 4 games now. There's no doubt about it. They were
after striking first and getting big leads. That was not the Capitals team we saw in the regular season, in this regular season or last regular season for that matter.
No, they were doing a terrible job with their break. They were turning the pucks over a lot. They were doing a terrible job of protecting the front of the net, and that's one thing they did in Games 5 and 6. The Leafs had just been throwing the pucks to the net, and they got a bunch of lucky breaks, but a lot of times they had 2 guys there, and the Capitals weren't tying them up. I mean, Zach Hyman was a thorn in the Capitals' side in the first first 4 games, even the fifth game. He was the one who helped Matthews get the tire in Game 5. But in Game 6, I didn't see much of Zach Hyman. I thought the Capitals I thought the adjustments that Coach Trotz made and what they did in their defensive zone, they really did a great job of walling off the Leafs from getting to the front of Holtby and made sure that those pucks weren't pinballing around in there on him. And when he had to, when Holtby saw the shots, I mean, you go back through all the goals in this series, when Holtby saw the shots, he pretty much stopped it other than, a breakaway here or there, especially, that Matthews goal there. What are you going to do there? That happened quick. But I thought Holtby was great. He made some huge stops and went on Komarov after Schmidt was Komarov cheap shot Schmidt, and he went in all alone. That was a huge save there because that could have been the game there. So Holtby was Holtby the last 2 games. He was the Holtby, as I like to call him in my blogs at WNST.net, and he was a difference maker. And I tip my hat to Frederick Anderson. He had a good series, but Holtby outplayed him, and now it's going to be Holtby against Marc-Andre Fleury here in round 2.
Pittsburgh Penguins are next up on the agenda. Ed Frankovic covers all things Capitals. We're going to be awaiting Game 1 on Thursday night now. Caps getting a little downtime here, which is much needed. And then we're going to go around the rest of the league and say, all right, if the Capitals survive these games, Thursday, Saturday, off to Pittsburgh next week. I'm even booked for Game 6 on the 8th up in Pittsburgh as well. Meanwhile, the Ottawa Senators have outlasted the Bruins. The Rangers beat the Canadiens. That's going on the other side. Those games run pretty much concurrently here through the weekend. There'll be an extra day next week where they'll go off course up in New York at Madison Square Garden. 2 teams that are playing pretty good hockey right now. I mean, Ottawa got up on Boston and finished it off. The Rangers were all over Montreal. Those games went overtime, and I watched a lot of those games because they were on the off nights of the Caps and the Penguins. And then out west, you got the Blues and the Predators. Nobody playing better than those 2 teams right now. And the Ducks and the Oilers also making pretty early work of their first-round competitors. Out of the tournament. The Blackhawks out of the tournament. The Minnesota Wild teams that the Montreal Canadiens out of the tournament. Teams that had the Columbus Blue Jackets had played great hockey this year. They're out of the tournament. So, we're down to 8 right now, and the Capitals have their work cut out for them. Dare I say this is the best series left, but I think the Blues and the Predators can be a pretty good series too.
Yeah, and I think every series is going to be really good, Ness, and among the teams out, the Sharks were in the finals last year, and Edmonton beats them. The way Edmonton's playing with their speed and Connor McDavid, we talk a lot about Austin Matthews. We got to see him, but Connor McDavid, I've seen some of those games, but they're really late, on the West Coast. They're playing really well, and the Ducks are back to playing that solid defensive type of game with Randy Carlyle behind their bench, so they look very good. That's going to be a heck of a series. And, Nashville and St. Louis, boy, Jake Allen's in the zone in net. It's amazing. That's an amazing story. Jake Allen was really struggling in January. Ken Hitchcock gets fired. I know the team definitely was sick of the voice from Ken, and they bring Mike Gowan, who used to coach the Wild, to take over, and Jake Allen gets a letter from a 5-year-old kid telling him he's his favorite player, and he's been a different goalie since then. It's amazing what a letter from a 5-year-old will do and turn your season around.
Well, you're out there with the kids on the ice all the time. I saw you tweeting up some pictures, and I mean, you've even got complications with kids for these games. It is amazing when we get older, right? I mean, I didn't go to Game 6 in Toronto. I said to my wife, sitting on the couch watching the game Sunday night while I've been working, I'm like, hey, I would have gotten back in my car and driven back up to Toronto if I had to for Game 6 20 years ago. And instead, we have like these obligations where making these games, paying for the tickets, doing it all, you can't do all the games. I mean, we're going to try like hell, but, this is a busy time of the year, and finding when these games and the schedule comes out at midnight on Sunday night after the Caps win Game 6, it really does kind of come fast and furious, and, there are some life adjustments that need to be made here for every Caps fan, I think, right?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, you and I love sports, and we grew up with it. We had fathers who brought us into it, but at the end of the day, it's family first, and you know that better than anybody with what you've gone through with your wife for the last few years. And my wife and I were fortunate to have kids later in life, and sometimes it takes the priority. And we're blessed in this age where we have the digital age where we can DVR things. We have the Capitals PR staff does such a great job of getting us quotes, and between you and I, we make sure we cover each other and get it done, right? Get her done, as Larry the Cable Guy would say, But it's going to be one heck of a series. We'll do what we can to cover it, and The one way or another, there'll be a blog out there every night. There'll be coverage, you and I talking and analyzing the game, and it's going to be a heck of a series. I can't wait for it. I feel like the pressure now is off the Capitals. I know everyone says, well, this team, they have to win this year, but you're playing the defending champs now. There's going to be a lot of people picking them to win based on how they played against the Columbus. Now the Capitals struggled a little bit against the Maple Leafs. I think that pressure is going to be off of the Capitals now. I think they're going to be dialed in. They want to beat the Penguins badly. They've been waiting a year for this. And we'll get into this later before Game 1 on Thursday night and really dissect it and talk about the matchups. But boy, this was a heck of a tough series, but I think it's in the end, we're going to say it prepared the Capitals very well for a very fast Pittsburgh team.
Oh, and here we go. Round 2. It's Caps and the Penguins beginning Thursday night. The draft. If you're out there following us, in the Bahia Toyota Audio Vault, everything about the Orioles, the Rays. Obviously, Luke's running around with the Orioles this week. I'm gearing up for Pittsburgh this weekend, as well as the draft on Thursday night. Along with Luke, we're watching the Wizards, and I will be in Pittsburgh all next week, broadcasting and doing radio from there in the post-draft aftermath, where the Ravens are expected to do pretty well this weekend in a pretty deep draft. Nothing going on, nothing to see around here at WNST.net as well, except everything in the Bahia Toyota Audio Vault there, 24 hours a day, from anywhere in the world, from your mobile device. Just download the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear. The morning newspaper ships to you at 7 a.m. each and every morning. It's got our road trips in it as well. We're now all set up for Minnesota, Green Bay, Nashville. We're offering $100 off for every trip purchased this week and next week. Get some folks to act. We have incredible prices, full trips, all in for Green Bay, all in for Nashville, all in for Minnesota and the Mall of America, as well as a London deluxe package that we're now offering. Our first package sold out. It was priced right, obviously. We do have some more flights to London, Minnesota, Green Bay, and Nashville. It's all up there for you at WNST.net. You'll also get it in our morning newspaper as well. Don't forget, any breaking news, including Thursday night, the Ravens make trades, anything weird's going on during the middle of the night, you'll get it first on the WNST tech service. But you got to sign up. It's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard, and Dennis Colatzos will be here on Thursday getting you ready for the draft, getting you ready for Game 1. Orioles taking on the Rays and then running off to Yankee Stadium this weekend. And we got lacrosse in season as well. There's a ton of stuff happening around here. You can always reach me, nasty at WNST.net, if you have some questions on the trips. If you're one of the 18,000 people that have been on our trips over the last 21 years, we're offering you this $100 off here as an introductory offer for all of our trips. We'd love to have you along. You can email me. You can find it on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, and anywhere we stream live on Facebook, as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We're rocking the red. We're painting the orange. We're getting the red, white, and blue going, and obviously getting ready for the purple. And 250,000 people up in Philadelphia this weekend. Maybe you're taking your kids up there. I highly recommend it if you're around this weekend to go do that. It'll be awesome, especially if the weather holds up. We are WNST.net, and I am Nestor, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.